I do think that guys like you genuinely care more about Trump being unsuccessful than you actually do care about the country itself.
Okay.
The last guy you had up, to say he's not smart, he clearly has a lot more life experience than you. I don't know if you've ever worked a job in the nature where he did, where the economy and stuff like that comes into play, but it sounds like he runs a business and actually understands how all that goes versus you,
But that
who
doesn't.
make your money from sheep sending you cash apps for sitting on
So
TikTok
first of
Live.
all, that's not how I make my money. Not entitled to his own facts, and his understanding of inflation truly. It was like you could watch a 5-minute YouTube video and have a better understanding than that. It was incoherent. It was nonsensical, truly.
He wasn't saying that much stuff that was just blatantly wrong.
I think his understanding of inflation was like was a child. I mean, it was completely wrong.
I mean, the biggest part of inflation and the way he was defining it is I know it's not the direct definition, but the devaluation of the dollar is like the main.
Sure, but sure. Why don't we talk about it? Okay, well, here he is. I'm actually surprised.
What's going on?
Hello? What's up, man? How old are you?
I'm 42. I'm from Wisconsin. I voted for Donald J. Trump 5 times.
5 times?
Correct. 5 times, sir. Could have voted for him 6. Only voted for him 5.
Okay. And the times you voted for him 5 times, what include, like when was that?
2016, 2020, 2024. Total of 5 times in those 3 years.
Okay. Like, so you're counting, like, when you voted for him in the primary and the
Yeah,
general?
you're a smart guy. I like it. Primaries. So I'm from the state of Wisconsin. We actually do our primaries here pretty well. We decide elections, so we're cheeseheads and we're election heads.
Right. Okay. So why did you do that, and how do you think Trump is doing so far?
Sure. So I'll preface with my first time. I actually voted for Ted Cruz. So we had concerns about Donald Trump from some of the things that the Democrats kind of bring up with womanizing and personal decisions, some business decisions like that. And we just wanted a standard Republican, I guess, and we didn't think he could win in the general. So Trump had to prove himself to us. We did elect Cruz in that primary in April of 2016. Cruz did win that primary, and it put some pressure on Trump, kind of brought him back to reality. Trump had to campaign a little harder. Trump ended winning the nomination, as you understand. And then we supported him in the general election, and I've supported him ever since. And I was wrong. I mean, it was one of the votes that I was truly wrong on. I mean, I would have been fine with the Cruz presidency, but yeah.
So in terms of like this presidency, I mean, I like, this Trump's second election year. Like, I think my first question I'll usually goes to like, I think Trump, number one, ran a lot on the economy, and I feel like one of the reasons he's becoming really increasingly unpopular and shaving some support from his own base is because inflation is rising, the labor market's really getting crushed. I mean, people are struggling. And I think, I've listened to some people who voted for Trump who say, this just isn't what I thought I was going to get, especially with like on the tariff front and stuff like that. So like, did that?
I don't see that
like,
from the voters I generally talk to. Those may be like lower informed Republican voters that you might be talking to. But GDP just hit 3.8%, which is huge. And unemployment's at about 4.8%. So that's almost full employment. Let's see here. Inflation is at 2.9%. That's down from about 9. So about 4 to 4.5% unemployment is a full employment economy. You're never going to get to zero. Okay. I thought that's what you were asking about.
No, but I mean, obviously, like unemployment has ticked up as like we see the slowest pace of hiring this country has seen.
Well, that's because we're at full employment. That's what happens when you're at full employment.
Really?
There's nowhere else. Yeah, there's nobody else to hire, and then the baby boomers are putting a huge pressure on this.
Okay, but I mean, I do want to point out, that you say between 4 and 4.5%, but that 0.5% in terms of unemployment, that's pretty big. I mean, when the labor market was hot and we had the lowest unemployment in 54 years, which had its issue, at that time, in 2022 or 2023, wanted the labor market to slow down because inflation was rising and people were the labor market needed to cool for inflation to cool, but the
no,
idea
it was
being
because
that,
of C-19.
Okay, okay, so hold on.
All right.
Obviously, Yeah, most of the inflation occurred because of COVID-19 and like the supply chain issues, right? But I'm saying that like when the Fed was attempting to get inflation under control, I mean, still is. I'll get to that in a second. But when we were having these conversations in 2022 and 2023, when you need inflation to slow down, you're looking for the labor market to slow down and people to start spending a little bit less money. And so the labor market was so hot. We ended up with, under Biden, the lowest unemployment in 54 years. That was 3.6%. So now you're telling me about, 4.8%, that there's a pretty large gap there. I'm just saying that the idea that, it's normal. I mean, it's the last 6 months there's a lot of news with unemployment. It's ticking up, and we've seen the slowest pace of hiring this country has seen, excluding the pandemic, since 2009. Nobody can find a job, and that's not super sustainable. On top of that, in terms of inflation,
So if there's a 4.8% unemployment rate, there's jobs available. So how can they not find a job? Those are based off of job listings and available workers.
Nice.
That's how that percentage is calculated.
Wait, how do we calculate unemployment?
It's generally calculated off of the job postings that are available and the available amount of workers in the job pool.
The available amount of workers.
Yes, the unemployed, able-bodied workers.
Who are, most importantly,
able-bodied workers.
Seeking work in the last 60 days and haven't been able to find it. That's a really important stat there for defining what percentage you're looking at. But yeah, the reason you're like, there's job openings, people can't find them because businesses aren't hiring.
Well, they are. I got job listings everywhere. I can't find enough.
Then why? Okay, then no, I don't care what you see. Why do we see the slowest pace of hiring?
That's what America sees.
Okay, no, it's not. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, where you are getting the statistics you are listing, this is the slowest pace of hiring this country has effectively seen since the '09 recession.
Yeah,
like nobody is hiring.
Because we're pretty much at full employment.
Really? So if there's a 1.5% difference between the unemployment rate in 2022 and the unemployment rate you're citing right now. So where did that 1.5% go? That's millions of people.
Right. So we're seeing an increase of baby boomers retiring, and the Democrats were kind of playing with numbers for the election, which they always did. They did it under Obama too.
They were playing for numbers with the election.
Yeah, those numbers. You've heard of like unemployment rates getting revised. So your number is an unrevised number, I would imagine.
Of course. No, 2022 has been revised.
I thought you said 2024. Oh, 2022, and we're coming out of a pandemic. Yeah, there's going to be a wave of everybody working.
Okay, but you said that there is full employment at 4.8%. So how at 3.6%?
No, I said about. Yeah, about 4.5% is full employment. So we're talking about 0.3%.
That's my point on like on a basic economic level.
Right. So how could Trump hire? The president doesn't hire people.
Can I? Okay.
Sure.
So now we're just blowing the whole thing up. It's like fuck
no.
this,
I'm just trying to get some more. I'm just trying to get a few words in.
So why don't
you threw a lot at? I'm sorry. You threw a lot at me, and I'd like to like go on inflation all that, but like you threw a lot at me, so just trying to get a few rebuttals in.
Okay, that's fair. I'm just trying to say that like when we talk about, you're like, oh, it's a couple tenths of a percent, it's close enough. But like when we talk about these employment numbers, that's not how that works. When we see things ticking up 0.1% or 0.2%, there's a reason for that. And in that conversation, what I was trying to get to was obviously inflation has been rising, has also been ticking up, and so the question becomes like for people upset about this and who voted for Trump. The answer is that, like, again, he ran on ending inflation and the golden age of America. And
I don't believe he ran on. You can't end inflation. So 2% inflation is a normal rate of inflation year over year. But the Democrats spent about $3.1 trillion extra dollars during C-19 through the ARPA funds and the inflation bill. And that caused massive inflations. We saw inflation rates of a year of 8 or 9% and then ticking down to about 3%. What?
Right. So two things. Quickly, two things.
That's what causes inflation, you understand. When the Fed bonds too much money, it puts too much money in the supply. It has nothing to do with supply line pressures or anything. That's not what causes. Because that would be temporary inflation. It would come down. Permanent inflation is when you devalue your currency, as the Joe Biden administration did, devaluing the dollar about 25 to 30%. That's what causes inflation.
Okay. That's like the most one. Okay. That I'm just super, super respectful here. That like completely off base, super incoherent, doesn't make any sense, and just not how that works. Okay,
well, that's
the definition. Okay. The definition of inflation. The definition of inflation is just price increase over time. So inflation, however it's there's
caused by
multiple ways
what?
Inflation. Yeah, exactly. It can be caused by multiple things. If you print
No,
a
it's
bunch of
caused by what I
can
said. Sure.
can I speak?
Yep.
It's not caused by what you said. It can be caused by a
100%.
variety of things. So, for example, when we see inflation under COVID-19, if the people who make toilet paper, none of the people show up to work to make toilet paper, and there's no more toilet paper being made, the demand for toilet paper, let's say, remains the same, but the supply of toilet paper has gone down really low. And when supply is low and demand remains the same, these prices are going to increase because there's not as much toilet paper. So let's say this company is like, okay, I want to sell 100 rolls of toilet paper today, but we're only going to get 100 rolls
Yeah.
the entire month.
I know a lot about the
So
paper industry.
Right, that's fantastic. So the point being is that like if you buy a turkey sandwich,
No,
from
let's
your
stick on
local
toilet
shop-
paper. That was a good example.
Okay,
stick on toilet paper.
Please, you gotta.
You
let
gotta
me
stick
speak.
on-
Please. Just
Well, you're
let me
jumping
finish.
all over the place.
Well, I'm not. I'm trying to finish a coherent, logical thought from start to finish. Please. My point being is that when it comes to inflation, whether it's the fact that somebody prints so much money that their currency is no longer valuable, or the turkey shop down the road, their turkey supplier burns down and they don't have any supply for turkey. So their amazing turkey sandwiches that they value so much are now $100 because they don't have the supply of turkey. It's all inflation, right? It's just price increase over time. So going back to our conversation about inflation, right? There's no economic evidence that supports what you said about the main cause of inflation. And when it was, at its highest points under the Biden administration, there's no economic evidence that was caused from some massive injection of cash. I think most of the economic evidence suggests the main cause of inflation was supply and demand issues. Furthermore, if what you said was the truth,
absolutely not. Supply and demand issues are temporary. I don't know. I'm not here for a filibuster with you, so I'm just trying to get a few words.
I know you're not here for a filibuster, but I'm trying to make a point, and I'm almost there.
Understood.
There's a really important last point here, which would be that if what you're saying is true, Donald Trump in his first term outspent Joe Biden, both COVID relief and non-COVID relief in terms of debt-related spending, and has outspent Joe Biden up to this point in his current administration. I don't think that's a good way of explaining how money and government flows. But Donald Trump in the first 6 months of administration had spent $300 billion more than Joe Biden has, and he's on track right now after his largest economic policy passed, the Big Beautiful Bill, his largest economic piece of legislation. He's on track to spend more than Joe Biden. He's added $3 to $5 trillion in debt-related spending under the Big Beautiful Bill. So this entire setup that you have made in your head about this injection of cash inflation, it's nonsensical. It makes no sense. And again, inflation
let me
is
explain
rising
it then.
because of Trump's tariffs.
No, incorrect. So, all right, that's what's called. I learned this term in TikTok, but you kind of just gish gallop me, where you throw me a bunch of stuff all at once instead of just sticking on one point. All right, so let's stick with one point, which was inflation.
Fantastic.
Inflation is caused when you
about.
flood. Well, not you. Okay, not really, but okay. So toilet paper. Let's go back to toilet paper then. Toilet paper went up because supply issues, right? But then it came back down as those supply issues were alleviated. That's not inflation. That's just marketary capitalism. Inflation is when the Democrats went out and spent $3.1 extra trillion dollars. Dude, you got to let me talk now. I mean, you just went all over the place.
You can't I thought. How are we supposed to agree on anything? You're just.
We might not agree on anything because I'm being respectful, but these are basic economic definitions that you.
What is the definition of inflation?
When you devalue your currency.
No,
it takes more dollars to buy
that
the same
is
amount,
not
the same product.
Okay, it might take more dollars, but that's not the definition of inflation.
Yes, it is.
It's just price increase over time,
which is caused by the devaluation of your currency, sir.
Okay, so under COVID-19, when there was inflation, was there inflation caused by supply issues?
No, those are temporary price adjustments because of demand.
Okay, a temporary price adjustment because of demand.
Okay,
that's inflation.
All right, dude, let me explain. People overreacted and went to the stores and bought too much toilet paper. But capitalism came, and people were just selling it on the black market per se, just for an inflated price. When the paper companies got back in, they were never shut down. When they just resupplied the stores, the prices went back to the place they were. Inflation happened over time on toilet papers and all goods because the Fed borrowed too much money in the direction of the Democrats on the ARPA bill and the infrastructure bill of $3.1 trillion, injecting all of that money into the economy. There's now too many dollars chasing the same amount of goods.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Why Donald Trump, my thing about Donald Trump spending more in debt-related spending in his first term.
We
and
don't.
has,
Yeah.
and he spent more at this point.
No, he
up to
hasn't.
this.
No.
No,
So
no, I
all
mean,
Republican
compare it
spend.
to-
No. Republican
no.
spending
Compare-
started October 1st. Do you understand when the federal
compare-
budget starts? It's October 1st.
This is
So all
absurd.
spending prior to October 1st, and the government was shut down then, remember, all spending prior to October 1st was Democrat Joe Biden spending
Okay, so
on a
then,
budgetary
fine.
level.
So his first term, when Donald Trump, leading up to COVID, outspent Joe Biden on both COVID relief and non-COVID relief.
Well, we had a pandemic, so there was PPP loans,
Okay, I said,
and some of that
no, no, no.
spending.
Nope,
right.
no, don't. Can you answer
And-
my question? It's just
yes.
this is so basic.
Right.
It was both. You said COVID. There was a pandemic. I know. So both COVID relief, meaning PPP loans and stimulus,
Yes.
whatever is looped in
Right.
there, and non-COVID relief, he outspent Joe Biden in 4 years.
He
So
possibly
did that
could have.
co-
And I'm not
Okay.
giving Trump's or the administration's decision to do that non-inflationary. That did cause inflation. You can see that from the BLS data. It did cause inflation. What I'm blaming the Democrats for was spending 3.1, mainly 1.9 extra trillion dollars on ARPA. ARPA was not needed, and it's ravaged our economy, and now we're recovering from it.
Okay. So again, do you have, and again, back to my last point, is like when you say these things, there is not economic data to support what you're saying. It
100%.
doesn't exist.
Yes, it does. So the $1.9 trillion in ARPA funds, that actually existed.
Okay, yeah, so I'm asking you to just pull up economic data that supports the theory that you're pushing.
Okay, the BLS has
Because again,
inflationary. If you go month by month on the BLS
Okay, wait,
inflation
you-
chart, you can pull that up.
Oh my God.
You don't
holy
have to.
shit.
I can almost explain it to
Yeah,
you at
no,
once.
I'm-
It was
wait,
like
wait,
8
wait,
or
wait,
9%, and then
stop,
6%, and then
stop.
4, and then now
This
it's down to
is- dude,
2.9.
I cannot. This is why we're at where we're at. We're talking about incredibly complex issues, and we're trying to label complex issues and be like, look, we can determine the cause with this graph. With this one piece of data from the Bureau of Labor
No.
Statistics. The reason
That's not what I'm saying.
Can I please speak?
Yeah,
The
I just
reason
don't
that
straw man
economy-
me though, man. Just don't straw man me. You can speak for yourself, but don't straw
The
man
reason
me.
that economists get paid so much money and go to school for a
they're
long
wrong.
time, and maybe they go get
That's their
extra,
problem.
they go to graduate school and they're economists and they study all these things. It is because it's way more complex than the way than any of us who don't study this can understand. So it's a really bad idea to be like, okay, I know that the $2 trillion in spending here caused inflation because look at the inflation graph from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Again, the economy is a really complex thing. A lot of things can cause inflation. So that's why the reason we have all this, the reason we have all this, can I finish? The reason we have, I know the reason we have all these economists who study these things, who go back and look at how did $830 billion
So
from
have they ever
Barack
built a multi-million-dollar company from scratch?
If you speak again, I'll kick you. Please just try. Just try to.
It's
engage
just,
with me here.
it's just one of these filibusters.
I really want to have a conversation here, because again, from
not-
an economist perspective,
He wants to
let me
have a
give you an
conversation.
example. Regardless of if you agree or disagree, I've read about this under the Biden administration when they came
You've
in
read about it.
and they're looking at something like the Inflation Reduction Act, which is $1.3 trillion.
It was a Pocahontas on a
Huge injection
manatee.
of cash for businesses.
That's pretty
for
cool.
Public education for local governments.
I think they're
Part of
invasive.
the thinking behind that was actually going back and looking at recent economic data from 2009. Why? Because it took years after 2009 to understand where the government went right and where the government went wrong. And what we understand from a lot of that economic data is Barack Obama passed a Recovery Act of 2009 that was $830 billion. It led to 72 straight months of private sector job growth. We recovered. It was great, but it was pretty slow. And when we go back and look at the economic data, we see that we probably left on the table billions of dollars of GDP output and potential job growth because the government actually didn't inject enough cash into the economy. And we could have recovered faster had we injected more cash. It took years
Wow, this guy's lost.
to compile and understand that data and understand it and have very smart people look at it over a long period of time to come to that conclusion, which then informed an actual competent administration like the Biden administration on making their decisions about how to handle the COVID-19 pandemic, which is part of the reason we recovered faster than anyone else in the world. And so when, again, we're just suggesting these things that, oh, I saw a bill passed and then I saw BLS graph go up, so it must be caused by inflation. Like, it's just, it's nonsensical. It's correlation without causation. It makes no sense. You have to have some evidence for this. What do you think economists do all day? If this is how we can figure out
Nothing.
inflation, why? They do nothing.
No, They don't. Did they build a multi-million-dollar company and have to meet supply chains like I did? Did they have to buy goods and services? Did they live all of this personally? No, their paychecks are still in the mail. Mine weren't. I got ravaged by inflation, dude. I got ravaged by high interest rates. I kind of live this.
I think you're.
I know
being.
this.
I think you're being ravaged by your own personal.
No.
Like,
All right. Let me. So a conversation is a two-way street.
personal
So
mental issues.
you said you want to have a conversation, and I do too. But that means like not filibustering each way. And I say a few sentences, and then you say a few sentences. That's usually how conversations go. So let me say one thing: if spending money was so good, then why are you against Donald Trump spending more money? If spending money helps the economy, grows jobs, then why are at the other side of your mouth? Why are you saying Donald Trump spent more money than any other president or whatever? And then why is that a bad thing?
I actually would say that through this entire conversation that I'm not suggesting that spending all this money under Biden is a good thing and then spending all this money under Trump is a bad thing. I'm actually just engaging on the premise that you gave me. You said twice that the reason we're facing what we're facing is because Democrats spent all this money and, quote, ravaged the economy. And so I was challenging your premise as somebody who says that you like Trump. In my mind, I'm going, wait, I'm confused. If that's how you feel, that's fine. I might disagree with it from a data standpoint, but then I'm saying to myself, okay, from a logical standpoint, if that's how you feel, you must be upset or feel like Trump engaged in way too much spending and caused all this inflation, which obviously, the economy from before the pandemic wasn't inflationary from a,
Well, there's no way to say that Trump did anything because his budget didn't go into effect until October 1st, 2025, and the government was closed. So when the government reopens, Trump's economy, technically, quote unquote, the Republican economy, goes into effect.
Okay. So we talked, obviously, like what I just said was in reference to his first term. But I guess in reference to that, I guess the question then becomes, if we saw inflation based on the graph you're talking about go down, it was going down, and then we see it tick back up. And obviously the time we've seen that when the graph starts to tick back up was when Trump came into office. I think most, the producers, the Feds, Trump's own administration, all these people would say like, the inflation ticked up because of tariffs. You would agree with that?
No, tariffs actually can control inflation because it sucks money back out of the economy and back into the federal government, which once it came from.
Right. Okay. So then what caused the uptick of inflation?
Well, we're still under the Joe Biden Democrat spending. The money's still out there. It's still being spent. It's still inflated.
So
it's going to subside once it goes out of the economy, but it's going to take another year or so. Street projects are still using it. Yeah.
So is there any reason? Sorry.
I spent millions of dollars of these ARPA funds, by the way, in inflation bill funds. I used to be a local elected official, so we quote unquote benefited from these funds. Now we're paying for them through inflation. So our street prices to build a road, they went about 30 or 40% in material prices because of inflation.
Okay. So why you say it's still like the Biden economy? I guess then the question becomes like, why was inflation, is there any particular reason that inflation was going down gradually for so many months in a row and then kind of stopped that train?
Right, because I think ARPA was spent, quote unquote, spent around 2022, 2023. So those funds have been massively spent in the last couple of years. Some are still floating around in some local budgets. There's states like mine in Wisconsin that have just held on to them. I mean, Tony Evers, my Democrat governor, is just hoarding money from that for some reason. So yeah, but it's mainly spent. So that's why inflation is subsiding, and it should continue to go down. And tariffs actually are helping, as much as you may not believe that. And I will let you speak.
And it just happened to start ticking back up again in January of 2025.
Yeah, magically after the election. Isn't that interesting?
I mean, I'm asking you.
Yeah, because the election was over. These things always happen magically during elections. The gas price goes down, inflation goes down, unemployment goes down. I don't know if you're old enough to remember Obama in 2012, but he was never a president that had under like 5% unemployment, and magically the BLS number right before the election was magically under 5, and then afterwards it magically went up because it was revised. These are anecdote. I mean, these are just silly little points that I'm not trying to get stuck on.
So from the tariff perspective, when we hear from, because we've been talking about, like, I just looked up the definition of inflation. So, inflation is, quote, a sustained increase in the general price level of goods and services in an economy over a period of time. right?
Yes,
So
due to
when
the
we talk- when we-
devaluation of your currency.
So when we talk about like when you hear from the Fed or from manufacturers or producers or at the actual retail businesses like Walmart and Target actively saying out loud that tariffs are causing them to have to increase their prices,
Right.
you don't subscribe to that happening.
Well, they don't have to purchase those products. They can purchase American and control that. So that's a decision
Right,
on their own. That's not
But
inflationary.
but a lot okay. But a lot of the if they do purchase products in America, a lot of them are still having to increase their prices because the products they're buying in America, at least as of right now, are more expensive.
Yeah, but
So
it's a baseline thing. But
Right.
tariffs
So if it's
tariffs increase.
if it's
Okay. All right.
if it's
Tariffs
I was just gonna
increase
say,
a foreign
if it's a
an
baseline,
import.
right? So, but what I'm saying is that it's causing inflation, right? Because if we charge everybody 100% on whatever to get whatever into the country,
No.
then
Because if that
I'm
same
just- I'm
widget,
just trying
so
to
if a widget Walmart sells, a foreign widget is tariffed and increased, a widget then can be made in the United States for cheaper, then how is that inflationary? When widget A from Walmart is $10 and widget B from the United States is $8, that's not inflationary, right?
That correct.
It's the same
That'd be
widget.
Great, but right, but that'd be great. But that's like not what's happening. For example, I actually
No,
watched
I
a
agree.
video. I watched a video from a Trump supporter who owns a small business in Montana. He makes knives. He makes knives, and he made a video when Trump announced a bunch of his tariffs and won. And he said, at Montana Knife Company, we make all of our products in America, so tariffs aren't going to affect us. So it's going to be great, blah, blah, blah. He made a follow-up video saying, actually, I'm kind of confused and I regret this. And he actually was outlining a lot of he was showing a lot of documents from things he had purchased for his business. And he explained that a lot of the things he was purchasing to create these knives, these like big, I don't even know, like machines, and then he was in some warehouse who was purchasing other big machines, the actual parts to get into the country to then manufacture those things in America the prices had increased significantly. And he was like,
Right.
I cannot sustain my business like this. And he was showing differences, and he was talking to about how manufacturers had told him that, the tariffs had really increased the price of these goods to get them into the country. So this thing you're outlining,
Well, then
where
he's
it's like,
uneducated where his raw materials come from. I mean, I know where my raw
Okay, but you
materials
want-
come from.
Okay, but like again, as somebody who says like you may build this million dollar business and supply chain thing, you seem to have a very
Yeah, I'm a manufacturer of
Black-
products. Of many products out of plastics.
Wow,
I've invented
I-
tons of products, but yeah.
Okay, well then it's just surprising me. You seem to have like a very just low level, you have no understanding of like the supply chain. I mean,
Oh, I do.
Hyundai has talked about
100%.
this. Okay, well, so how about this? Hyundai has talked about this. They have a $2 billion plant in Georgia. The U.S. government incentivizes them before tariffs, obviously, to come to the United States and manufacture their cars here. But now they're facing some trouble because they might assemble their cars here, but they have to import 20,000 different car parts from around the world because the supply chains are very complex. They have to get them here, and they cannot get them here in the United. They can't get them from the United
Correct.
States, and so they're. So the cost to manufacture a car in the United States, which they're trying to work with us here, is actually, they're worse off. They might as well move back to Korea and do it because it's less expensive there. Right?
I would
So you
doubt that
understand how that
because we would tariff the entire vehicle instead of tariffing the final product, which we don't do. We're just tariffing these small parts to put pressure on certain things, and I can explain those if
Right.
you want. These tariffs
so
are
if we
likely
tariff-
temporary. We're only 10 months into tariffs. They're very temporary. They're very targeted, and they've worked so far between Canada and China. The best sitting examples where China has caved and Canada has caved over these tariffs, and hopefully they are overall temporary. I understand your concerns. You're not completely wrong on them. And yes, tariffs do raise prices of certain goods, certain products, certain raw materials. But that doesn't mean they're exact quote unquote inflationary. They did not devalue our currency. That's the definition overall of inflation, is when your currency is devalued, everybody has to raise prices. Everyone has to raise prices because it takes more dollars to chase the same amount of goods.
That's just okay.
Well, that's basic economics, the way that I was taught and the way that I live life.
It's good. I'm just saying the definition of inflation. I mean, anything
I heard-
that
yeah.
causes a price. Right,
Yeah, I heard your
is
definition.
inflationary.
And I think
Right,
you're missing a
but the
sentence
thing-
after that.
The thing is, it's not my definition. It is the understanding of inflation. And I think to the
No,
chat, like,
I disagree.
when we talk about something that I've been very passionate about in life is that whether you make $20,000 a year or $1 million or 500,000, I want everybody to know this. There is no correlation between making money, any amount of money you make. I don't care what you do. I don't care what car you drive. There's no correlation between the money you make and how intelligent you are. If this guy right here
Correct.
built, yes, if this guy right here built a multi-million-dollar business relating to the supply chain, then you can do, anyone in this chat can do anything. Because I am a 23-year-old I haven't graduated school, Kennesaw State, hooty hoo. I took an economics class. I showed up a total of 3 times. I showed up the first day, I showed up for a midterm, and I showed up for the final. Don't talk.
It's showing.
For the final,
I'm not trying to talk. I just
for the
wanted-
final, I got a 76 and I passed the class because I like economics and I like politics. I have the most basic understanding. Okay, this guy has a genuine, he has zero understanding of what the fuck is going on in inflation, supply chain. He has no idea, and this fucking guy is making a bunch of money doing shit he has no idea about. So everybody in the chat, to everybody who has dreams and goals, I'm dead serious. I'm being so serious right now. Pursue your dreams. And I'm not even trying to take like a direct shot at you, bro. Like, I'm sure you're good at whatever you do, but I'm being so genuine. There's a concept in our society that these people who make $500,000 a year, the people you see driving the Porsche, the people like, they have something you don't, they do not. I swear to God, they don't. Like these people, like so many people just have money and have literally zero common sense or basic understanding of what's going on around them. And that's fine. It's fine. It's fucking sick that they drive Porsches. I'm sure this dude has sick shit, and that's dope for you. I promise you work hard. I'm just saying to everybody in chat, chase your dreams, bro. Anyways, I just don't,
Well,
I mean, yeah.
okay.
Tariffs on
I mean,
inflationary.
that was a little personal, and you don't know me. I don't think we've ever met besides this, so you don't know my story at all. But you showing up to 3 economics classes and missing the rest is kind of possibly showing that I don't think you need to go to college to learn economics. I started my company at 25, and I grew it into a product that I sold $30 million worth, but that was blood, sweat, and tears. I'm pretty intelligent. Again, I was a former elected official. I served 2 terms. I've won 2 elections. I took down a long-term incumbent. I've worked on state campaigns. I mean, I know the political environment. I also know the business environment. So I think you're missing a sentence when you say inflation is this. You're missing a sentence when more dollars are needed to buy the same amount of goods. That's generally, I mean, that's inflation in a nutshell. But just to say that, yes, anybody, no matter how smart they are, can become successful. But it does take a basic understanding of this. And if you started a business, you would understand. 2020 was great for us. We had a record year. I was doing record months in June when June are our starving months. At the time we were a winter-based company. We were having record months because everybody was inside. It was amazing. It was good times. Things were rocking and rolling. And then all of the effects of that kind of came into play. Inflation ravaged us, and high interest rates ravaged us. So, I mean, these are my shared experiences with millions of other Americans that are small business people. So just to discount those because you showed up for 3 economics classes seems a little disingenuous to me, sir.
I'm not discounting an experience.
My
we're
village
debating
business, I managed a $38 million overall budget, but our economy in my village, it's the largest village in Wisconsin. My economy is about $10 billion. That's what I oversaw, $10 billion. So I think I know just a little bit that maybe you should have listened just a smidge and taken some of that in. That would have been my advice.
Okay, no, I understand that. I'm not discounting your experience at all. I think what I'm discounting is like when we're debating between like fact and fiction, right? There's just like certain things here that exist and don't exist. There is not economic evidence that some injection of cash was like the main cause of 9% inflation.
Then let's
exist.
inject more. Let's just spend $3.1 extra trillion next year. Why not? Let's do it. Why?
Because it would be inflationary in a time, right? But okay.
Wait,
so let's
what?
go back a second. Right. Fantastic. Are you actually? Wait. Are you being serious right now?
Well, let me just rewind.
Let me ask you. Let me ask you.
So
a
if
question.
Joe Biden spends $3.1 trillion, it's not inflationary. But if Trump spends 3.1, remember this is extra money too. This is beyond the overall budget in a year. If Trump spends 3.1 extra trillion dollars next year, besides the about 4 trillion that we spend, so that would be 7.1 trillion extra dollars in a year. That's not inflationary somehow, or it is, and it wasn't under Biden.
Okay. When there is a recession, let's say, what is the role of the federal government?
If there's a recession, what's the role of the federal government? Depends on how severe the recession gets.
Why? Okay, then let me rephrase my question.
Were we in a
If
recession
we
under Biden? Let me ask that. Were
can
we
it, hold
in a
on,
recession ever
no,
under Biden?
I mean, technically not, based on the
Well,
definition of
technically we
recession.
were. Absolutely.
Okay,
It's quarter over quarter of what, do you know the definition of GDP? I don't like
yeah,
playing
I
this game,
think
so
I
I'll just
think
tell
it's
you.
I think it's over 3/4.
No,
You
it's
were
two
about to say
quarters.
over
It's
three-
quarter
okay,
after
2/4.
quarter of GDP negative growth, right?
Okay.
So we had
So-
that, and then they changed the definition so the media wouldn't report on an actual recession. Isn't that nuts to you?
Okay. We can go to that in a second. I promise.
I don't
would
really
love
want
talk
to.
about
It's
that.
just a general point of how the Democrats
I'm
manipulate
not-
the media in your brain. But
I
yeah,
just don't think it happened, but I'm more than happy to look it up. in a
well, it
second.
did.
Maddie,
This is BLS data. I mean, it's the only people that produce this data is the BLS.
Can I?
It's a single
can I
source.
please-
Yep. Go ahead, my friend.
But the Bureau of. So, again, when we go back and you say, well, if Biden injected all this cash and it's not inflationary, you say it's not inflationary.
It
which
was
any
inflationary.
okay. You gotta let me finish speaking. Please, I'm gonna ask you a question.
Sure, but if you're going to say it wrong, I got to correct you. When
Dude,
Biden
stop.
injected
I'm
3
not,
point,
I'm asking you a hypothetical because now we have people in the chat that are even annoying me even more because I'm losing literal brain cells here.
yeah, but you
Okay,
gain
so
like 400
let's-
viewers. This always happens to me. Don't
let's-
worry. Don't worry
let's-
about the chat, my friend. Don't worry about it. It's okay.
Let's start here. Okay. Let's start with a basic understanding of a few things. Yeah, you said that inflation, if we have a 2% target every single year, obviously it's not going to be zero. When Joe Biden injects cash into the economy, when we spend money, it is inherently, just at any level, inflationary. It's why, inflation, the target is 2% and not 0%. Out of the 9% inflation, let's say, where I'm just going to be very broad for a second, out of this inflation, some of it came from this large injection in cash you're referring to. What I said, and I was very specific, I said that the main cause of inflation, there is zero economic data to support the idea that the main cause of inflation was this massive injection of cash. I would say it is completely factually incorrect to suggest that, we had 9% of inflation because of the government or the Biden economy. It's not based in reality. It doesn't exist. Now, hold on a second. Before we go there, you said, okay, Chris, then you say when Joe Biden, you said, why don't we just inject $3 trillion of cash right now? I said that would be bad because it'd be inflationary. And you say, well, what the hell? And then chat goes, W guessed. So what is the role of, speak very broadly, when let's say that a recession hits tomorrow and unemployment's 10% and the American people need help, you would agree that the general role of the federal government is to provide some amount of stimulus into the economy. That is our understanding of economics, right? We did it in 2008. We did it in 2020. When we talk about you say, why did this not cause inflation? Because again, if we just have a basic understanding of, let's just say a generally very broad recessionary time, it's like a donut. The economy becomes a donut. There's a hole and that hole in terms of, let's think of the donut as money, there's a cash missing. And it is the federal government's role in some way to inject cash and the correct amount of cash to keep the economy flowing, to keep employers from retaining, employment. They're not firing people, to keep
Correct.
people from being evicted, etc. So it is so blatantly dishonest. And to anybody in the chat, it's really just, frankly, I mean, we're talking about 8th grade Gov 101. It's well, how come 3.1 trillion here? It's yeah. So obviously the role of the government at that point in 2021, when people are facing eviction and inflation is high and unemployment is high, the role is to inject cash, and that's not going to be inherently inflationary because the inherently inflationary. That's not going to cause at all the same effect as if we just did it right now, because we're facing a recessionary time where actually we're missing cash in the economy. We need an injection of cash. There's a lot of it's so much more complex than that, obviously, but from a very basic level, that is why injecting $3 trillion of cash right now for no good reason would be inflationary. But injecting $3 trillion of cash when nobody has any goddamn money and everybody's unemployed and businesses are about to go under,
Trump had
is
already
not.
done it, dude. Trump had already done it. So our
Can you
response.
address? Can you
I
engage
am.
with what
I
I
am.
just
You
said?
just kind of
Do
went
you
on for like
do
2 minutes. So
do you
I mean, give me
understand
30.
how?
Can I have like 20 seconds?
Okay,
I'm
can I
just
just? I
asking.
just want
If
to.
you have 3 minutes,
Okay, I
I'm
just
asking
want.
for 10 seconds.
Okay,
It's
I'll
kind of
give
a
you more than that. I just want you to start with. Does what I said make sense based on you
yeah.
saying how
Yes.
Biden's is
Yes.
inflationary?
Yes. I could have gotten it in about it. Yes. I'm pretty good at this, so I don't need that long. But yes, that makes sense. So can I respond to it? Because I understand where you're
Sure.
thinking, and you're not wrong. Here's our response to that. The ARPA funds were not needed. It was an extra $1.9 trillion that ravaged our economy. Trump and somewhat of Biden did what they needed to do to prop our economy during C-19. The PPP loans, I was a recipient of that. I got about $30,000 or $40,000 from one of my companies for that. It was amazing. Okay, it was absolutely amazing. It saved us. Okay, but I feel that that's my money because in a quarter, I spend no less than $30,000 in 3 months sending that to the government. So after my lifetime, I think it's kind of a 1% back deal. It's not that much money in the long run. Anyways, when Biden and the Democrats came in, they wanted all of their agenda. They kind of saw the writing on the wall that they weren't that popular. They may have had some election issues. So they wanted to spend the infrastructure bill at one point. Well, they wanted to do Build Back Better. That didn't work. So then they got to the infrastructure bill. That was $1.2 trillion. So that ravaged the construction industry's economy. And then they wanted to do more with the $1.9 trillion in ARPA funds. I believe that that was not needed. The economy was already on recovery. GDP was up. Employment was up. All the economic numbers were up. And all they did was dump 1.9 trillion extra dollars onto the economy, which caused even more massive inflation, which I think we've already agreed upon that government spending causes inflation.
Okay, before we go to the next subject, you would agree, like when you mentioned something like the infrastructure bill, you understand that wasn't just like a massive injection of cash, and it certainly wasn't a massive injection of cash instantly, right? You
It
understand
happened
these-
almost overnight. So my local, so this is everywhere, but like,
Wow.
yeah. So like we do bridges, right? When I was on the local government, we obviously are responsible for bridges, but our state government, and this is everything, state government pays 80% of a bridge. Bridges are very expensive. So state government pays 80%. Those come from gasoline taxes. All of a sudden, magically, our bridges were subsidized at 100% level. That was from the infrastructure bill. The federal government was picking up 20% because Joe Biden loves bridges. The federal government was picking up 20% of bridges. Now, that's great for my local residents, but now they're paying it back through inflation. It's
Right.
everything has a
That's-
cause.
that's-
What's the term?
Right.
A cause and causation. If you do one thing, something else is going to happen, like Newton's law, right? Or something there.
Right. I was just saying, like, obviously that's a very small port. I mean, $1.2 trillion is a lot. I was just saying, like, that bill is, a plan over, and I don't know where that bill stands now. Donald Trump is, taking.
Well, the
federal
money's
government
gone. The money's all
basically-
been spent. It was a
that's-
one-time thing. So this was on top of a $4 trillion federal budget. This was extra money.
So, like, let's just, like, in that bill, there's like $100 billion for electric chargers that span a plan until 2031. So I'd assume that, like, the
Mm-hmm.
electric chargers that are planning to be built in 2028, the money hasn't been flowing at 100%.
So I don't know how that's allocated. If it is a trickle,
Right.
or if it
it's
was
because,
just, a lot of those.
It's because there is not a single human being on the planet who even understands legislation that would believe. That
I do. I
$1.2
used to write
trillion
legislation, sir. I used to have to read it for
That's
my
great.
job.
I
Of 50,
feel horrible for your constituents. There is. It's
That
just
I
not,
understood?
You're living in a. You're living in a.
you feel
fallacy.
horrible for my constituents because I understood the law.
Because you don't. You clearly have a misunderstanding of some of these things.
Dude,
There's just.
do you know how many
$1.2 trillion
thousands of
was-
hours I used to go to meetings and not get paid for? I mean,
That's
it's a little
that's
disingenuous
fucking-
here, my friend.
That's amazing. You sound like the best, most impressive person ever. The point being
I'm
is
not
that
trying to
it
toot
doesn't-
my horn. I'm just trying to
it
say
doesn't-
maybe I
it-
have a life experience that you may strive for
I-
someday.
I believe you have a life experience and that I can learn off of. I do believe that. But that does not change the reality that $1.2 trillion from an infrastructure bill was not plopped onto the economy the day after it was signed. That is so.
Yeah, we
so-
got the
it's
money
not-
within. Yeah, we got the money right away.
Okay,
it went to the states. No, it went to the states and
Shh, you got the money for your bridge. Do you understand how much $1.2 trillion is? You got the money for your bridge. That's great. A bunch of it went to certain places that needed it. Philadelphia fixed their bridge. I get that.
Yeah, it went all
1.2
over the
trillion
place. It's a lot of money.
Yeah, I know. Can we just talk about something else? How do you feel
Sure.
about like Trump eviscerating like law and order, like selling pardons for money or executive authority?
He's selling
increasing
pardons for money? I haven't heard that. Wow, that sounds serious.
Yeah, selling pardons for money. I can give you some examples.
I guess. Wow. Okay, we're gonna pivot. All right. Yeah, that's fine. We could pivot. I mean, yeah, selling pardons for money. How much money did he get for a pardon, and who was it?
Sure. Let's start with Steve Wozniak, who was the
Yeah, Woz. Yeah, I love Woz.
who was the
I thought he was a lefty.
who was an executive at a I'm just speaking of a different
Oh,
Wozniak.
you're not speaking about Woz. You're speaking about somebody else.
This was a guy who was a senior executive at a like nursing home, and he went to prison because he was cheating on his taxes. So he like bought a yacht and did all this crazy stuff. He pled guilty, agreed to serve 18 months in prison and pay the federal government back $4.5 million. His mother showed up after Trump won. Showed up to a $1 million per plate, meaning she spent $1 million to get in, event at one of Trump's largest super PACs. Ended up getting into a private meeting with Trump around the same time after she showed up, and 3 weeks later, Steve got a pardon. And the only source for why he was pardoned was that the family had been something like kind or had done a lot of great things for the Trump in the United States over a period of time. Donald Trump held a cryptocurrency dinner at the White House where the top 220 investors got to show up for dinner. Top 220 investors by dollar amount. The top 25 got to have dinner with Trump. The number one investor of that was a man named Justin Sun. He's a Chinese national who had lawsuits against him from the SEC in 2023 and was almost certainly going to prison. And then he dumped $30 million into Trump's personal cryptocurrency, dropped another like $70 million into World Liberty Financial, which directly partners with the Trump board for cryptocurrency stuff. And, 2 months after in February, his SEC lawsuit was suddenly dropped, and they said that they would, reassess it later. He had dumped all that money in January and then met privately with Trump by May. I mean, there's a lot of examples of it. He just pardoned the Binance CEO.
Yeah, I heard that.
I mean,
yeah, it's a weird name,
like,
Binance. It always sounds like finance when people say it on the internet, but yeah.
so like, do you
Yeah,
think
that Brigman guy gave a lot of money to Democrats, millions of dollars to Democrats to win the midterms, and he ended up in federal prison. That was interesting.
Do you think any of what I just said?
That was a big
concern?
scam. It sounds like
to
politics.
talk
No, I don't know if it's a concern because I don't know the details. I'd have to look into it. It sounds like politics overall.
Okay, but you think that like our political if that's then you would agree that our political, if that is true,
Yeah,
it's not.
you know what? I'm just going to be honest. After the bullshit the Democrats pulled the last 4 years, yeah, there's just a lot of stuff I'm not really going to care about anymore. Yeah, there's just a lot of stuff.
You'd be good now, bro.
See you, dude. Good talking with you for 46 minutes, 34 seconds.
I'm telling you, chat. There's people you will run into in your life. People you will run into in your life. Who I'm sure I could.
They want to
learn a lot
block
off
me
that
now?
guy. But I promise you, don't second guess yourself. Don't block him, Maddie. I appreciate you, but don't block him. There are people in life who will make you second guess yourself because when you talk about issues, they will bring up the fact that, well, if they have experience in any of those given things, which he does, it's important to listen, okay? But just not even politically related, there are people who will make you feel dumb or stupid or because I own a business, I make a bunch of money, I do this,
I don't make
I do
any
that,
money anymore.
I own a big house.
You didn't let me
Stay
even
confident in yourself because you're smart.
say these things.
And I'm telling you, when you start to like travel the world and meet people, when you start to like have conversations, you realize there is no correlation between making money and being smart. There's not even correlation between making money and doing what you do and being smart in that field. It's genuinely hit or miss. Most of life is luck. Okay, I'm sure that guy did great for his constituents in Wisconsin,
trying
but
to
him
help
understanding
you.
how he got funding for a bridge has nothing to do with how federal legislation is paid for.
Oh, really? So
infrastructure.
federal money that I use
his
is not how
understanding of
federal
inflation
legislation
was
works.
incoherent. I think an 8th grader who takes an 8th grade Gov 101 class would have a better understanding of the causes of inflation. He's insufferable and annoying. And he was like, well, I want to say he was nice, but he wasn't. He was like purposely being a dick. Anyways. If you're a Trump supporter, you can let me know. Hello.
Yeah, how's it going?
How old are you?
Sorry, what'd you say?
I said, how old are you?
I'm 24.
Okay. Can you name the three branches of government?
Yeah.
Okay.
Executive, judicial, and legislative.
Okay. Fantastic. Why'd you vote for Trump?
I mean, I don't love Trump. I just thought he was the lesser of two evils. I think the Democrat Party really showed their colors over the last, 6 years.
Okay. Show their colors how.
And I do think that guys like you genuinely care more about Trump being unsuccessful than you actually do care about the country itself.
Okay.
And just one thing I wanted to say is the last guy you had up, to say he's not smart, he clearly has a lot more life experience than you. I don't know if you've ever worked a job in the nature where he did, where the economy and stuff like that comes into play, but it sounds like he runs a business and actually understands how all that goes versus you.
But that
who
doesn't
make your money from sheep sending you cash apps for sitting on
So
TikTok.
first of all, that's not how I make my money. Second of all, that doesn't, I'm sure he has more experience in those fields. That does not entitle you to your own facts. Okay? Just because you run things and do things, it does not entitle you to live in an alternate reality. His understanding of inflation was nonsensical. It was incoherent. You can say that he ran for local office. You know who else is in office? Marjorie Taylor Greene. You know who else is in office? Donald J. Trump, who gets up on a stage and says things all the time that are incoherent. And people say, well, I mean, he's a businessman. He wouldn't understand. Frankly, I'm sure he did great for his constituents. He's not entitled to his own facts. And his understanding of inflation truly, it was like you could watch a 5-minute YouTube video and have a better understanding than that. It was incoherent. It was nonsensical, truly.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess you could, that is true. And I agree that some people, it doesn't matter what position they are in their life or their experience. Like some of the dumbest people ever are probably in positions of power. So I do agree with you there.
And I'm sure he did great. And I'm sure he's smart in many areas. But that, again, it just doesn't entitle him to talk about inflation as like.
Yeah, no, I agree.
He doesn't get to say that 2 + 2 = 5. It just doesn't exist.
I didn't.
I will not let it happen. I refuse.
But he wasn't saying that much stuff that was just blatantly wrong. I think
his understanding of inflation was like was a child. I mean, it was completely wrong. It was totally,
you do have the correct definition of inflation, like the one you were saying. But I mean, the biggest part of inflation and the way he was defining it is I know it's not the direct definition, but the devaluation of the dollar is like the main.
But him trying to suggest that like tariffs are not inflationary because of whatever the fuck he was saying is like absurd. I mean, it's so disingenuous.
Yeah, no, I do. I agree.
It's like he's purposely trying to bounce around it because he's sucking Trump's dick so hard. It's like, I'm not having this conversation with you, nor am I going to be lectured about the fact that, oh, well, I did things so I'm smart. It's like, okay, well, it sounds like you've sold your soul to like an orange buffoon. If you like Trump for reasonable reasons, that's fine. But it's like, dude, he's sitting up here trying to tell me that, like, trying to like bounce around every possible way to just not say the reality, which he would end up saying at one point, which is just like, I mean, yeah, tariffs are going to cause some inflation. It's like I can have a normal conversation about tariffs or inflation or any of these things, but I don't want to do it with disingenuous people.
I agree with that. I don't know if I go as far to say, like, we don't know if he's disingenuous fully. I mean, a lot of people vote for Trump, and one thing